Hi GenderqueerChat, it's Callie, it's Saturday, and this week the topic is questions. It's a list of questions that we're all doing our best to answer. Okay, so question one is what do you do? What's your job? And currently my job is I'm doing a research project at my university on conceptual theories of metaphor. And if I start explaining about my project, then it will take up the entire video, and neither I nor anyone who listens to it will be any the wiser. I'm currently in the process of writing a long-winded article about it, which I'm eventually going to cut down to a short-winded article about it, or sort of article essay type thing, which is going to form a part of, hopefully I will use this as a writing sample for postgrad applications, grad school to translate, postgrad, grad school applications. And so the grant that I get for doing that research project, conveniently enough, the program that I'm doing the research project under comes with a weekly grant. But I also not for money, but just for fun, volunteer at a charity bookshop, which I've been doing since I started university, and I love doing that. Working with books and people who want to buy books, many of whom are probably certifiably insane, which is something you find with a good percentage of all customers at second-hand bookshops. But you know, in the most positive of ways most of the time. So yeah, that's what I do. But it all involves spending a lot of time around the written word. Okay, so my fridge. In my fridge is soy margarine, semi-skimmed milk, mushrooms, courgettes, 4 old margarine tubs of leftovers, half a slightly frozen lettuce, a tomato, extra mature cheese, tube of tomato puree, 3 eggs, a bunch of homegrown spring onions, half a tin of pineapple that needs to be thrown out, and in my freezer are a bag of frozen peas and some ice. Now, I actually did this. I read that off of like a note thing on my screen, but one of my talents is memory for useless things. If you want to know where my umbrella is, I couldn't tell you, but what's in my fridge, I just sort of stared into space and thought about it and typed everything down. Then I went to check on it and I got everything right except for the number of eggs. Yeah, if one of the questions were what's a completely useless talent you have, then remembering strings of pointless information is mine. What do you do for fun? Well, I've got very sedate hobbies. I read a lot, I write poetry, and I journal. I go for long walks by the coast where I live, as I think I talked about 2 weeks ago, where I met some seals, or in the woods. I play chess and Scrabble with my friends and flatmates. I also like to do the chess puzzle or read the chess puzzle in the newspaper and sort of think about it. I love reading about chess. For some reason I find reading about chess very relaxing. I also like to do the crossword. I'm no good at cryptic crosswords, but I'm trying to build up that. Another pointless skill I'm trying to acquire is the ability to do cryptic crosswords. I bake, I love baking, and I always like to have something home baked in the kitchen, but my flatmate made cupcakes yesterday, So I haven't baked since I did Danish pastries on Wednesday. Danish pastries are a fun thing to bake. And the next thing is, what is your favourite pair of underpants? Well, I wasn't able to find them to show you because I think they're in the wash, but suffice it to say that they're in blue and purple tartan. The next question is, do you play any instruments? I used to play an instrument. I used to play the viola when I was at school. I was not good. Next question, what's under your bed? Unfortunately, nothing's under my bed at the moment. I used to like having a bed where you could store things under it, either just under it or in drawers, but currently I just have a great big bed base, which you can't store anything in or under because it goes right down to the floor. There's even a caster missing, so my bed is kind of slightly at an angle, but not really a perceptible angle, unless you're in the Princess and the Pea. But I think the only things that are under my bed are, to judge from past experience, although I haven't looked in preparation for this video, to judge from past experience, socks and biros, which I've lost and have made their way under my bed. I was going to write down the last 5 books that I've read, and I just have to extemporise because I've only done some of them. Okay, the last 5 books that I read were Elevator Music, which is a history of easy listening music, which is more interesting than it sounds, but not as interesting as I thought it was going to be, if that makes any sense. Gene's Languages People by Luigi Calavi Sforza, I think is the name of the person who wrote this book. It's quite interesting, but I felt that I had read a lot of the things that were in it before, and it's about kind of the evolution of thought and the supposed great leap forward that happened 50,000 years ago when human beings suddenly acquired a lot of the skills that we now have. For this, I'm not really counting books I read in pursuance of my project. I'm just counting books that I read for fun because I read a lot of books in doing my research project. But a lot of these books I read off the back of doing my research project. So, for instance, I wouldn't have read Gene's Languages People. I'm not even sure if I'm getting those words in the right order, but it's something like Languages People, Genes, or something like that. Off the back of this. Another book I read off the back of my project was Consciousness and the Computational Mind by Ray Jackendoff, which is pretty good. I think some of the neuroscience is slightly outdated because it was written in 1985. I don't have much of a background in neuroscience anyway, so it was just interesting to get that perspective. What else am I thinking about? I read Plato's Phaedrus. This is really a kind of artsy, art studenty reading list, so I apologise, but yeah, I read Plato's Phaedrus, which is the introduction and accompanying materials, and Plato's Phaedrus in translation, not in Greek. The Greek's not good enough for that, which is interesting dialogue of Plato's. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. It's up there with the Euthyphro and the Crito and other top Plato dialogues. Okay, I can't remember what. I don't want to just sit here thinking for too long. I can't remember what the last book I read apart from those. So those 4 I'll have to do. And also scars. I'm afraid I can't think of any scars that I have. I sort of looked, but I'm not aware of having any scars. I obviously don't lead an active enough life. And then the next question is not really something I feel I can provide an interesting answer to either, I'm afraid, because I don't really have many. The question is, what things must you do before you die? And I don't really have many kind of I don't have any places I really want to go, or swim with dolphins type feelings. So I don't really know why that is, but I just don't experience those kind of things. You know, I like traveling to kind of beautiful places, but I like beautiful places kind of in my own country, relatively close to home. And the only times I've really travelled abroad, it's been with other people or to visit other people. You know, I'm not much of a traveller. I'm quite a homing pigeon. This isn't to say that I would live abroad if the opportunity. I wouldn't live abroad if the opportunity presented itself. It's just that I like to have a place to sort of put down roots and everything. Okay, things I want to do before I die, though. The main things I want to do are get my PhD, know the love of a good cat, and I write books. I want to write poetry books. I want to write critical books. I maybe want to write a memoir someday if I do interesting enough things. I really like books, and I would like to contribute to the great stock of written knowledge that there is. So, yeah, I would really like that. And also the other thing, it's not really a kind of do before you die type thing, because I could sort of do it any time if I decided to set aside the time, which is to be able to read and write really good Greek. And I don't have like a regular Greek program at the moment. I mean, I did have last year. I took lessons in Greek the year before last, and last year I had a kind of program of Greek learning, but I've kind of let it fall by the wayside a bit, because I've been concentrating on other things, and that's fine. But if I ever retire, I'm not sure I would ever retire because I don't ever see myself not being in either education or employment or doing voluntary work or some or all of the above. But if I ever find myself retiring, I need something to fill the days with, or alternatively, if I get thrown in prison, then the plan is to swat up on my Greek and be very good at both reading and writing Greek. And I'd like to do some kind of crazy project, like my old Greek teacher used to translate the Sherlock Holmes stories into Greek, and I'd really like to do something like that. Like translate Jane Austen entirely into Greek or something. That would be really cool. Yeah, and favourite recipe. My favourite recipe at the moment is a dessert recipe. And it is donuts. And if you've never made donuts, I really recommend donuts. I am going to post a link to the blog where I got my donut recipe, and it's a blog called The Uprising, and it's how to make vegan donuts. And they are gorgeous, and they're so much fun to make, because you heat up a big pan of oil, and then you drop the dough in it, and it goes, and then you turn them over, and it goes. It's a quieter. And then you scoop them out with a slotted spoon, and then you roll them in icing sugar, and they're amazing. They're really good, and people are very impressed when you make your own donuts. But actually, it's a lot of fun. And then we're supposed to ask our own questions, okay, so my question is something my flatmate and I have been talking about recently, is kind of our running topic of conversation, which is the inconsistencies and various permutations of the Harry Potter universe, because we're both big Harry Potter fans. Because, you know, we were of that generation. I was 8 when the first one came out, so I make no apology. And we were saying, and we were deciding the other day, what would your animagus form be if you could... No, we were deciding what would our Patronus be if you had a Patronus, and we had to decide who each other's was. Like, I had to say what I thought hers would be, and she had to say what she thought mine would be, and she thought mine would be a cheetah, which I think is awesome, and I'm going to finish with that. So expecto Patronum, and see you next week.